There are mornings on a U.S. Navy base when everything feels sharper than it should. The engines louder, the wind colder, the air heavier with the weight of things unspoken. Naval Station Clearwater, an operations hub carved into the Florida coastline, looked peaceful from the outside. But inside its hangars, briefing rooms, and chain-of-command hallways, the place was tight with tension. People felt it, heard it, moved around it, like there was something dangerous buried beneath the surface, a truth no one wanted to touch. And on this particular week, the arrival of a high-rank inspection officer was already causing rumors to ripple through the ranks like electricity. Not a name anyone recognized, no photo, no introduction, just a title, Rear Admiral, classified clearance, highest-level authorization. Nobody knew who the Admiral was, and nobody knew that she had already arrived. Because on that morning, before sunrise, before formation, before anyone had the chance to realize who she was, she walked the base disguised in nothing but a plain officer's uniform, her hair tied back, no ribbon rack, no identifying bar, no entourage. A deliberate choice. Her name was Rear Admiral Amelia Hale, and she wanted to see how her Navy truly behaved when they thought no one important was watching. Hale had been in the service for 28 years. Combat deployments, joint command operations, investigations into misconduct that had nearly cost her her career more than once, but she wasn't here for a ceremonial tour. She wasn't here for the PR handshake. The Pentagon didn't send her to observe morale, as the official document said. They sent her because Clearwater had a pattern, an ugly one. Junior enlisted complaints buried, training accidents brushed aside, alcohol incidents overlooked. Multiple commanders rotated in and out without explanation. A culture of fear, whispered but never reported. Too many red flags. So Admiral Hale walked the base quietly, listening more than speaking, watching more than intervening. And on that morning, the moment everything changed, she wasn't even in one of the command buildings. She was in the enlisted mess hall, the heart of the base, the place where real truth lived. Coffee machines hissed, boots thudded across tile. Sleep-deprived sailors argued over powdered eggs. Nobody even glanced at her. Good. That's how she needed it. She sat at an empty table, a simple tray in front of her. Plain oatmeal, black coffee. A folder tucked under her elbow containing the first of many classified reports. She barely got 2 bites in before trouble walked in. Loud, laughing, swaggering trouble. Captain Reed Dalton. Dalton was the kind of officer who looked like he had stepped out of a recruitment poster. Tall, square-jawed, immaculate uniform. But the shine didn't hide the rotting underneath. Everyone knew it. The hush that fell when he entered was the kind built on fear, not respect. He didn't notice the change in the room. Leaders like him rarely did, or maybe he liked it. He spotted Hale, just a nobody in a plain uniform, and grinned. "Look at this," he said loudly to the cluster of junior officers behind him. Someone didn't get the memo. We're eating breakfast, not starring in a funeral. His men laughed, not because they wanted to, because they were trained to. Hale kept her eyes on her oatmeal. She noted every face. Noted who laughed willingly, who forced it, who looked away. Dalton stepped closer. "Hey," he said, voice sharp with mock offense. "Did I say you could ignore me?" She didn't look up. He hated that. He grabbed a can of Coke from a nearby vending machine. One of those cold cans that beaded condensation instantly in the Florida humidity. Shh! Crack! The can opened. Hale finally lifted her eyes, staring into his without the slightest flinch. Dalton smirked. "Lighten up, sailor." And before anyone could react, before the silence of the room could break, before the officers behind him could register what was happening, he tipped the can and poured cold Coke directly over her head. The room froze. A gasp cut through the air. Someone whispered, "Holy shit." Someone else muttered, "Why would he?" But most just sat still, eyes forward, terrified to breathe. The Coke soaked into her hair, dripped down the back of her neck, slid onto the collar of her uniform. Hale didn't move. Not an inch. Her stillness unnerved Dalton more than any outburst could have. "What?" He laughed awkwardly. "It's a joke, relax. We're all friends here." No one laughed, no one blinked, because something in Hale's eyes, calm, almost sorrowful, told them the joke was about to detonate. She stood up slowly, wiping nothing, fixing nothing. "Captain," she said softly. He puffed his chest. "Yeah?" You've made your last mistake. Hale reached into her pocket with steady hands and placed her identification card on the table. A single rectangle of metal and plastic. The entire room inhaled at once. Dalton's smirk died. Rear Admiral. Clearance Alpha Black, Pentagon Authority, the highest-ranking officer on base. Outranking everyone present, including him. Hale didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Captain Reed Dalton, she said clearly. You are hereby relieved of command, effective immediately. The room erupted, not in sound, but in stunned, electric silence. Dalton tried to laugh, but the sound came out cracked. You can't be serious. Hale looked at him with the quiet, razor-sharp authority of someone who had survived decades of war, politics, and the kind of battles most people never learned about. I am deadly serious, she replied. And unfortunately for you, I also have witnesses. The junior officers stared at the floor, at their trays, at anything that wasn't Dalton. He pointed around the room desperately. This was just, everyone knows me. They'll tell you I was just... Hale tilted her head. They'll tell me the truth, she said. And so will you. She turned to the nearest petty officer. Sound the master-at-arms, now! The petty officer bolted. Dalton stumbled backward, hands shaking. This is insane, he hissed. You don't understand the dynamics here. You don't get this place. Hale took a step forward. Captain, she said, voice like iron sliding into place. I understand this place better than you ever will. Over the next several hours, Admiral Hale conducted spontaneous interviews, in hallways, in empty offices, on the training grounds, at the pier where sailors cleaned equipment they were too scared to use improperly. Every sailor she spoke to carried the same fear at first, stiff posture, trembling voice, careful words, but when she asked one question, "Do you feel safe serving under Captain Dalton?" It was like she had unlocked doors bolted shut for years. Stories came pouring out, not just the Coke incident, much worse. Dalton screaming at sailors until they cried, overnight duties assigned as punishment for speaking up, drunken misconduct brushed under the rug, weapons mishandling blamed on juniors to protect seniors. Female sailors targeted with jokes that weren't jokes. A growing culture of fear where silence meant survival. One enlisted sailor, a quiet woman in her early 20s, finally whispered, "We thought no one cared. We thought we just had to take it." Hale nodded slowly, her jaw tight. "Not anymore," she said. By midday, Dalton sat in an interrogation room, not handcuffed, but visibly restrained by the weight of consequences he never imagined could fall on him. He stared at the table, hollow, incredulous. When Hale entered, he didn't even lift his eyes. This is overkill," he muttered. "You're trying to destroy me." Hale sat across from him, folding her hands neatly. "You destroyed yourself," she said quietly. He finally looked up, eyes red, anger simmering. "If you reveal all this, my career, my reputation, my life, your actions," she said, "are your legacy, not my report." He swallowed hard. "You don't understand what pressure is like in command." Hale leaned forward. "I commanded carrier strike groups," she said. "You poured Coke on a sailor." He winced. I thought it would make me look, Hale shook her head. "You thought nobody would stop you." Silence. Cold, suffocating silence. He whispered one final line, barely audible. "I didn't think anyone above me cared." Hale stood. "Now you know someone does." By sunset, the entire base stood assembled on the parade ground. Hundreds of sailors. Officers aligned in precise rows. The American flag snapping sharply in the wind. Admiral Hale stepped to the podium. Her hair was still damp, faintly sticky from the Coke she refused to wash out until the day's work was done. A symbolic reminder, a scar that would not be hidden. She spoke clearly, every syllable resonant over the microphone. "Today," she began, "you witnessed something that should never happen in the United States Navy." Eyes snapped forward. Backs straightened. "No rank," she said, "gives anyone the right to degrade another sailor. No authority allows for humiliation, abuse, or entitlement." Dalton stood to the side in escort, stripped of command insignia. Not humiliated, held accountable. "And let me be very clear," Hale continued, "fear has no place in this organization. If you cannot speak freely, then leadership has failed you." She looked across the formation, at the quiet sailors who had survived under Dalton's thumb. "Today is not about punishment," she said. "It is about correction. It is about healing. It is about rebuilding trust." She paused. "For some of you, this may be the first day you feel safe in your own uniform. That is unacceptable, but it is also something we will fix, together." Her voice softened, the wind carrying it across the field. "I stand with you. I serve with you. And I expect every leader here to do the same." A long silence. A respectful, powerful silence. Hale stepped away from the podium, and for the first time since morning, the sailors exhaled. Long after the speeches, the paperwork, the formal handover, and the calls to the Pentagon, Admiral Hale sat alone on the dock, staring at the dark water. Her uniform jacket was off, her sleeves rolled, her hair still carried the faint smell of coke. Lieutenant Jameson, the young officer who had watched the entire morning unfold in silence, approached cautiously. "Ma'am," he said, "I wanted to thank you." Hale didn't look up. "You don't need to thank me, Lieutenant." He sat beside her, boots dangling over the water. "I didn't do anything," he said, voice tight with guilt. "When he poured that coke on you, I just sat there." Hale finally met his eyes. "You were scared," she said gently. "And you're not the only one. Fear is real, morally complex, and sometimes powerful enough to make good people freeze." He swallowed hard. "How do you deal with leaders like him?" he asked. Hale looked out over the black water. "You don't fight them with anger," she said. "You fight them with truth." The breeze picked up, carrying the scent of salt and oil. "And sometimes," she added softly, "you fight them simply by refusing to bow." Jameson nodded slowly. The base lights flickered across the water like broken stars. He took a breath. "I want to be a better officer," he said. "After today, I want to be better." Hale smiled faintly. "Then start tomorrow," she answered. "Start with one act of courage, even a small one." They sat in silence. 2 generations of Navy, 2 sailors who refused to let fear win. There are moments in military life that never make the news. Moments when courage looks nothing like heroism in a movie. No firefights, no explosions, no dramatic rescues. Sometimes courage is a quiet woman standing still while a man pours coke on her head. Sometimes courage is the decision not to walk away. Sometimes courage is speaking the truth after years of silence. On Naval Station Clearwater, that courage rippled outward, through the ranks, into the culture, into the hearts of sailors who finally realized something powerful. Leadership is not granted by rank. It is earned by character, and on that day, when one admiral refused to bow to arrogance or abuse, a broken base found the first step toward healing. Respect is not optional. Courage is not loud, and justice begins the moment one person chooses to stand up, even when everyone else stays seated. In the end, the strongest leader in the room is never the one who demands power. It's the one who protects the people beneath their command.